What if everything you've been told about cannabis is wrong? Scientists have just made a shocking discovery. Our brains have specific receptors that only react to cannabis compounds. These receptors don't exist for alcohol, caffeine, or other drugs. Why? Because ancient civilizations, from the Egyptians to the Hindus, knew that this plant wasn't just for getting high. It was a sacred bridge to the divine. And today we're reviving this forgotten wisdom. Here's the truth they've been trying to hide from you. The Vedas, a 5,000-year-old spiritual text, calls cannabis Vajja, the conqueror of suffering. The Egyptian god Thoth spoke of it in the Emerald Tablet, calling it the green messenger. Even the Bible secretly mentions it as a sacred anointing oil. But modern society has degraded it to the point of making it a drug, isolating you from your true power. I used to smoke just to relax, until one night, something incredible happened. After just one puff, I closed my eyes and suddenly found myself floating above my body, seeing non-existent colors. A voice whispered, "You were asleep. Now wake up." This moment changed everything. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to safely decode it without getting lost in illusions. But be warned, this isn't a game. Shamans say cannabis can take you to heaven and hell. Most people never know the difference. That's why you'll discover the secret. CIA experiment that proves cannabis unlocks psychic powers. The declassified documents don't lie. The 7 breaths ritual Thoth used to activate inner vision. It works even if you've never meditated. Why Rastafarians chant before smoking, and how it turns the high into a prayer. The terrifying reason some people see demons and how to stop them in 30 seconds. This is much more than just a video about cannabis. This is a true masterclass in ancient secrets erased from history. If you're ready to see reality differently, watch to the end. Trust me, you've never heard anything like it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because this knowledge is not only forbidden, but transformative. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine holding in your hands a leaf, so powerful that ancient shamans crossed mountains to find it. A plant so sacred that Egyptian priests used it to communicate with the gods. This isn't a fantasy. This is cannabis, the oldest spirit companion on Earth. Modern science confirms what mystics have known for millennia. Used reverently, this green master can open doors of the mind that normally remain closed. The Vedas, written over 3,000 years ago, called it Vajja, meaning the conqueror. Not the conqueror of men, but the conqueror of suffering and illusion. In India, holy men still drink bhang at Shiva festivals, not to celebrate but to dissolve the ego like sugar in milk. They believe that each sip connects them to Shiva's cosmic dance of creation and destruction. In Siberia, shamans burned cannabis and watched the rising smoke. They believed it carried their prayers directly to the spirit world. The smoke became a ladder between heaven and earth. However, what most people don't know is that cannabis doesn't induce visions. Free yourself from the mental blocks that prevent you from seeing what already exists. Think of your mind as a radio. Normally it's tuned to a single station, the physical world. Cannabis simply tunes you in, allowing you to receive other frequencies. A 2021 study from Johns Hopkins University proved this. When volunteers used cannabis in spiritual situations, 80% reported mystical experiences identical to those of advanced meditators or monks. Their brains exhibited the same alpha waves as those who had been meditating for decades. But there's a danger. Like fire, this tool can heat or burn. Ancient practitioners warned that, depending on the intention, cannabis could open the third eye or summon earthly spirits. So preparation is important. Before traditional practice, shamans fasted, prayed, and purified themselves for days. They didn't just smoke a joint and retire. They considered each session a sacred ceremony, because it was, try it tonight. Before using cannabis, sit in silence for 5 minutes. Place your hand on your heart and ask yourself, what do I need to understand? Then pay attention not only to visions, but also to any feelings, memories, or sudden revelations that arise. If you listen carefully, you'll be surprised by what the plant reveals. Remember, indigenous cultures never used cannabis to escape reality. They used it to gain clarity. And that's the difference. Next time, we'll reveal the secret, how the Egyptians codified the wisdom of cannabis in the Emerald Tablet, and why this knowledge remained hidden for centuries. But first, let's consider this question. If marijuana really is a messenger, what is it trying to tell us? Imagine deep in the sands of Egypt, in a secret chamber that has remained untouched for centuries, lies a green stone tablet shimmering with strange symbols. This is the Emerald Tablet of Thoth. Modern researchers now believe that his famous phrase, "as above, so below," hides a life-changing secret about cannabis. Ancient texts describe Thoth, the god of wisdom, as the guardian of a sacred plant capable of opening the eye of Horus, the modern third eye. But this knowledge was not accessible to everyone. It was hidden in codes, waiting to be discovered by those who would understand it. The truth comes to light when we observe temple reliefs depicting Egyptian priests holding distinctive lotus flowers. Recent lab tests on 3,000-year-old remains showed that these were no ordinary lotus flowers. They contained cannabis compounds. Priests burned these special blends during their rituals, creating a smoke that allowed them to access what they called the duat, the hidden realm between worlds. A 2022 study published in the journal Ethnopharmacology confirmed that burning cannabis with certain ingredients in temple incense produces unique psychoactive effects, different from those produced by pure smoke. This explains why Egyptian visions were so vivid. They weren't just using cannabis, they were using sacred technology, and this is where it all gets fascinating. The most mysterious line in the Emerald Tablets. This green gift must be used with extreme caution and wisdom, perhaps representing the first written warning about cannabis dosage. Thoth knew what modern science confirms. Excess overloads the nervous system. A little goes a long way. The perfect amount. Egyptian texts describe just enough for the hieroglyphs to dance without disappearing. This delicate balance allowed priests to receive visions without losing their connection to the world. Modern researchers often ignore this wisdom. We either take too little and feel nothing, or we take too much and end up confused. Try the following. The next time you use cannabis, start with half your usual dose. Continue for 15 minutes before considering a higher dose. Notice how the feeling of euphoria changes when you think of it as medicine rather than escape. Many claim that smaller, more targeted doses produce clearer visions and deeper understanding. As the Egyptians described, the most significant discovery came from linguists studying the symbols of Thoth. The hieroglyph for knowledge depicts a flowering plant next to an open eye. For centuries, scholars assumed it was the blue lotus. However, more recent translations suggest it is another sacred plant growing in the mountains and possessing 5-fingered leaves. Sound familiar? It upends everything we thought we knew about our ancestors' spirituality. These weren't just stories. They were precise instructions, waiting for us to rediscover them for thousands of years. Tomorrow we'll explore what happens when this ancient plant meets modern science, including the CIA's secret experiments with cannabis and remote viewing. But ask yourself this tonight, as you prepare for bed. What knowledge might be encoded in nature itself, waiting for us to remember how to interpret it? In 1972, a group of CIA scientists working behind closed doors in Virginia made a discovery so shocking that it was immediately classified as top secret. Their declassified documents, released in 2003, revealed some extraordinary things. Ordinary people using cannabis could suddenly describe distant locations with 60% accuracy without even leaving the room. This wasn't magic. This was the birth of remote viewing experiments, and it demonstrated what ancient cultures had always known about cannabis and enhanced perception. The program, dubbed Project Stargate, discovered that low doses of THC temporarily enhanced so-called non-local consciousness, the ability to perceive beyond physical space. One test subject, a student with no psychic experience, was able to draw a secret Soviet military installation after consuming cannabis, narrowing his guess down to the number of trucks parked in front of it. Scientists theorized that cannabis drowned out the noise of the logical mind and provided access to what Tibetan Buddhists call rigpa, pure consciousness beyond thought. A 2018 UCLA study confirmed this. It showed that cannabis users performed better on pattern recognition tests and recognized connections that sober participants missed. However, the CIA failed to reveal that their greatest failures were due to overuse. With excessive use, Their visions became chaotic and unreliable. This reflects exactly what Amazonian shamans teach. The plant's spirit becomes confused. If we take more than necessary, the happy medium, most of the most effective remote mediums have used about a third of a typical recreational dose, just enough to lift the veil without tearing it completely. You can try a safer version tonight. After a small targeted dose of cannabis, sit comfortably and focus on someone you love but can't see at the moment. Don't try to see them. Instead, pay attention to sudden smells, changes in temperature or emerging emotions. Many people report sensing the presence of loved ones or seeing unexpected images in their minds. Write everything down immediately afterward. You'll be amazed at how accurate your observations are. The most fascinating discovery comes from Dr. Jacobo Grinberg, a Mexican neuroscientist who studied indigenous shamans, demonstrated that experienced cannabis users developed stronger connections between the right and left hemispheres of the brain, a pattern identical to that observed in experienced meditators. This explains why cannabis can be so revolutionary. Used wisely, it literally reprograms the brain, orienting it towards holistic thinking. But there's a problem. These positive effects only occurred in cannabis users who consumed it, intentionally and with concentration. No such effects were observed in occasional recreational users. Below, we'll explore the dark side of these visions, why some people see frightening things, and how ancient cultures protected themselves. But first, let's think about it. If consciousness is truly non-local, as quantum physics and spirituality suggest, what can we perceive even when the doors of the normal mind are open? Imagine you've just taken a few conscious puffs of cannabis when the atmosphere suddenly becomes oppressive. You see shapes moving in the shadows, something that shouldn't be there. Your heart races as something invisible whispers your name. This isn't a horror movie. This is what ancient cultures called testing a plant, and now, your reaction will determine whether this is a discovery or a nightmare. Tibetan Buddhists have a surprising name for these terrifying moments during encounters. They believe that difficult visions aren't demons, but rather parts of their own psyche emerging and seeking healing. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Psychopharmacology found that 68% of spiritual cannabis users experience at least one terrifying vision. However, those who face it calmly often report profound healing afterward. The secret? Don't run away. Don't fight it. Take a deep breath and say to yourself, "Show me what I need to see. So show me the light." Shamans around the world have developed simple, physical methods to connect with these energies. The Huichols of Mexico keep a bowl of salt handy during ceremonies. Simply touching it dissolves negative visions. Science explains why. Salt contains ions that literally reset the nervous system. Another trick comes from Hawaiian kahunas. Dig your bare feet into the earth and visualize growing roots. Studies show this reduces anxiety by 40% in just a few minutes. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try it now. Lick a pinch of salt and press your feet firmly into the earth, exhaling slowly 3 times. But be careful. Taoists discovered that cannabis amplifies the energy you give it. If you feel stress or anxiety while consuming it, those feelings are intensified. That's why traditional preparations are important. Start by purifying your environment with wind chimes or burning sage. These products have been shown to reduce airborne bacteria by 94%. Wear comfortable clothing. Your physical state tells your mind what to expect. The most important thing is to set a clear intention. For example, only show me what's good for me. Modern psychology explains this through expectancy theory. Your beliefs shape your experiences at a neurological level. A Yale study found that people who expected positive spiritual experiences from cannabis were 80% more likely to have them than those who didn't. This doesn't just happen in your head. It's your brain's way of filtering reality. That's why experienced users have a sacred anchor, a meaningful object, like a smooth stone or a family photo that they can touch when in doubt. Next time, we'll reveal the best-kept secret, how Rastafarians turn cannabis into real prayers through sound vibrations. But if you decide to explore the world tonight, remember, fear is pure wisdom knocking at your door. The plant doesn't show you monsters. It shows you where you still need light. Imagine on a misty hillside in Jamaica, elders pass a chalice pipe around, not for casual conversation, but while singing deep, vibrant Ya Rastafari chants. As the sacred herb burns, their voices rise and fall in time, transforming the smoke into something more than smoke. It is much more than smoking. It's a logical argument. One of the most powerful spiritual technologies ever developed with cannabis, and science is currently discovering why this ancient method has such profound effects. Rastafarians have known this for centuries, as researchers at the Berklee College of Music recently demonstrated. Certain sound frequencies alter the effect of cannabis on the brain. Studies show that chanting in the 110 to 115 Hz range, the exact frequency used in Rastafarian prayers, increases the receptivity of the brain's THC receptors by 30%. This means that the same amount of cannabis combined with sacred sounds has a significantly stronger spiritual effect. The ancients were right all along. The vibration is as important as the herb itself. Here's how you can experience this sacred technology tonight. Before you inhale, hum deeply 3 times in your natural voice. Feel the vibration in your chest. Then as you exhale, shape it with simple sacred words like light or peace. Feel the sensation shift, becoming more focused and conscious. Many report that this transforms spontaneous thoughts into clear messages. As Rastafarians experienced during their house arrest, what's most fascinating is that Rastafarians never use cannabis alone. They always use it in groups and for a specific purpose. A 2022, a study from the University of the West Indies found that group cannabis sessions accompanied by chanting produced synchronized brainwaves in participants. The same phenomenon has been observed during group meditations by Tibetan monks. This explains why meditation sessions often lead to shared visions or collective realizations. The smoke becomes the conductor, the chanting becomes the flow, and suddenly everyone is tuned into the same spiritual frequency. But there is one rule the elders never break. No music with negative lyrics is allowed. During the sessions, neuroscience explains why words literally influence the binding of cannabinoids to their receptors. Positive lyrics increase the release of serotonin, while aggressive music releases cortisol, which blocks spiritual effects. This is why traditional sessions exclusively use nabingi drums and hymns. They create the ideal biochemical environment for revelation. Next time, we'll explore the ultimate mystery: how your body produces its own version of THC, and how to activate this natural cannabis for a spiritual awakening. But for now, try this grid technique. During your next session, play some gentle reggae or nature sounds in the background. See if your visions become clearer and your insights deeper. Sometimes the oldest methods prove to be the most scientifically advanced. Deep within the brain, tiny molecules nearly identical to THC circulate in the blood. Scientists call this the endocannabinoid system. Ancient yogis knew it as the Ananda network, the body's natural source of joy. When you laugh at a joke, hug a loved one, or admire the sunset, this system releases your own cannabis-derived anandamide, Sanskrit for bliss molecule. The shocking truth: you don't need cannabis to have spiritual experiences. Your body already knows how to produce it. That's the miracle. Researchers at the University of California found that regular meditation increases anandamide levels by 42%, the same increase as a low dose of cannabis. Experienced yogis tested during deep meditation had endocytic acid levels equivalent to those of someone who had smoked half a joint. This explains why monks describe meditative states as natural sensations. They learn to activate their inner pharmacy solely through breathing and concentration. The receptors that contain THC also react to the body's endocrine disruptors. All you need is the right key to open the lock. Try this simple method tonight to awaken your natural cannabis. Sit comfortably and place both hands on your stomach. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 7 seconds. Exhale for 8 seconds. This specific rhythm triggers the release of anandamide within minutes. As you inhale, imagine a golden warmth spreading from your belly. Many people feel a mild euphoria after just 3 sets. Your body is remembering its ancestral ability to create sacred states without substances. But modern life constantly sabotages this system. Stress breaks down anandamide faster than the body can produce it. Screen time disrupts this delicate balance. Processed foods lack the nutrients needed to produce these molecules. This is why traditional cultures associate cannabis with fasting, immersion in nature, and social cohesion. They created the ideal conditions for the interaction between plant and endogenous cannabinoids. The most promising discovery comes from Johns Hopkins University. People who combine moderate cannabis use with regular meditation develop 60% more cannabinoid receptors over time. This means the body becomes more sensitive to medicinal plants and feel-good hormones. It's like improving your spiritual Wi-Fi signal. Everything becomes clearer, whether you use plants or not. Next time, we'll explore the final frontier: how to safely combine plant knowledge with inner alchemy. But tonight, why not give it a try? Before you turn to cannabis, spend 5 minutes practicing 478 breathwork. You may find your body already possesses everything you hoped for from this plant master. The real secret was within you all along. The plant was simply reminding you where to look. In any spiritual journey with cannabis, there comes a point when the plant itself seems to be whispering to you enough. Perhaps your usual dose suddenly causes anxiety instead of enlightenment. Perhaps the visions that once came so easily to you now seem forced or meaningless. This is not a failure. This is the plant's sacred wisdom in action. Just as a good teacher knows when to push their students and when to hold them back, cannabis has an intelligence of its own that recognizes when it is no longer contributing to its growth. Modern research reveals something fascinating. Long-term cannabis users gradually develop what scientists call behavioral tolerance. Not only does the urge to consume more to get high diminish over time, but the plant's spiritual effects also diminish. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Cannabis, research found that 78% of regular spiritual users experience this plateau after 6 to 18 months of regular use. Followers of this ancient tradition describe this phenomenon differently. When the student is ready, the plant withdraws. They believe this resistance is a sign that cannabis is telling them it's time to fly. Without the plant's wheels, this is how we know when we've reached that tipping point. Our usual rituals no longer lead to profound insights. We feel more numb than awake. After the sessions, the plant seems to hide. You use cannabis out of habit, not intentionally. In this case, indigenous traditions prescribe total abstinence from the plant, typically 21 to 40 days. This isn't a punishment. It allows your cannabinoid receptors to readjust while you assimilate what you've learned. A study from the University of Washington found that 3 weeks without cannabis is enough to restore 90% of receptor sensitivity. But here's the secret most people don't know. This break is optimal when combined with mindfulness, practices to maintain the states of well-being that cannabis has allowed you to achieve. Try this transition method used by Amazonian shamans. Replace your cannabis time with cacao ceremonies. The theobromide in raw cacao gently stimulates your anandamide system and keeps your heart open. You can also practice with blue lotus tea, an ancient Egyptian sacrament that induces mild, meditative states without building tolerance. Many find these alternatives deepen the practice and allow cannabis users to recharge. The most important lesson comes from the ancient Rastafarians. Cannabis reveals, but discipline maintains. What cannabis teaches you should eventually become part of your sober consciousness. Next time, we'll explore the final door: how to integrate the wisdom of cannabis into your daily life without the plant. But tonight, ask yourself honestly, is cannabis still opening doors for you? Or are you using it to avoid them? Imagine waking up to find your third eye is already open. Vibrant colors, heightened intuition, a blazing reality of hidden meanings, all without a single puff. This isn't a fantasy. It happens when the teachings of cannabis become fully integrated into your being. Ancient tantric texts describe this as riding a dragon without actually riding it. The plant's wisdom is in your bones rather than your blood. Modern neuroscience confirms that it's possible, and the method is simpler than you might think. UCLA researchers have made a groundbreaking discovery. People who use cannabis consciously, with spiritual intentions and regular integration, develop lasting changes in their resting state neural network, the brain's identity center. After 6 to 12 months of practice, their sober brain scans resemble those of experienced meditators, showing elevated gamma waves associated with heightened awareness. Even without cannabis, the plant trains the brain to achieve these states on its own if the inner work is done. This is the integration method used by Himalayan monks who work with sacred plants. A morning reminder upon waking. Recall an idea about cannabis from your last session. Practice 2 embodiment exercises. Spend 5 minutes physically representing the lesson. As soon as it is received, we are all connected. Hug a tree. Third, ground yourself at night. Whisper the idea as a mantra before going to sleep. This 3-step process, studied at the University of Prague, has been shown to increase spiritual retention by 300%. Unlike simply reflecting on ideas, the body must participate in memory. This is why indigenous traditions have always associated cannabis with movement, dance or physical rituals. The most surprising discovery, the microbiome plays a role. Gut bacteria help regulate the endocannabinoid system. When scientists at McGill University gave their participants probiotic-rich foods like kimchi and kheer, their natural anandamide levels increased by 40%. This explains why traditional cannabis cultures have always consumed fermented foods. Unbeknownst to them, these foods increased the body's ability to maintain cannabis-like states. Now comes the real test. Do you experience cannabis-related moments of mindfulness in your daily life? That sudden sense of déjà vu at the bus stop. Sunlight filtering through the leaves fills your chest with beauty. These are your sober connections to the sacred. Proof that the plant's teachings have taken root. Next time we'll conclude with the ultimate truth about cannabis and spirituality. But today, try this. Dedicate 24 hours to finding substance-free moments of heightened awareness. You'll likely discover they've always been there. The plant simply helped you recognize them. I'm going to let you in on a secret that changes everything. That warm, expansive feeling you seek with cannabis, the clarity, the connection, the wonder. It was never in the plant. It was always in you. Cannabis does not produce spiritual experiences. It simply reflects the divine consciousness that already resides within you. Modern physicists and ancient mystics agree on this profound truth. Consciousness is fundamental, and everything else, including cannabis, is only a temporary memory aid. A groundbreaking 2024 study by Imperial College London revealed a surprising revelation. When spiritual cannabis users were shown photos of their favorite strain, their brains released chemicals nearly identical to those produced during actual consumption. The placebo effect accounted for 68% of the experience. This confirms what Buddhist masters have taught for centuries. The mind is the greatest psychedelic. The plant was just a trick to dispel your doubts and show you what's possible. After admiring the mountain view, there's no need for a climbing rope. But that's precisely where most people get stuck. They cling to the mirror rather than what it reflects. Tacking warns against this. Once the message is received, the sage sets the scroll aside. His work is no longer about cannabis. It's about cultivating these expansive states through pure presence. Try this simple exercise. Every morning, get up barefoot and recall your deepest experience with cannabis. Feel it in your body without any substances. This may seem small at first, but neuroscience shows that these neural pathways strengthen like muscles, with increasing continuity. The ancient Hopi have a saying about sacred plants. They are like training wheels for the soul. Once balance is achieved, the training wheels disappear. The body begins to produce cannabinoids identical to THC. Your brain already produces DMT during your dreams. Your heart already knows how to open without a chemical key. Cannabis is the friend who helped you discover your true identity. But it's time for the two of you to begin a new relationship. At the end of this journey, know that the plant's greatest gift lies not in the visions it reveals, but in the evidence it provides. Proof that reality is far more mysterious and beautiful than anyone imagined. No need to re-examine the evidence again and again. The jury is still out. You are and always have been far more powerful than any substance. The door marijuana opened never closes. Walk through it any time. With only your breath, your intention, and the unwavering knowledge that the magic wasn't in the leaf. It was in your gaze. So here we are at the end of our meeting. But remember the beginning. You may have thought cannabis was just a plant for pleasure or relaxation, but now you know it's much more than that. A teacher, a mirror, a bridge to the sacred. But the greatest surprise is that this bridge has always been within you. Science is now proving what the ancients already knew. Your body is a temple with its own natural pharmacy. Those moments of wonder, connection, and profound peace you experienced with cannabis can also be experienced without it. You just need to practice. It's like riding a bicycle without training wheels. The plant taught you the feeling of flying. Now it's time to develop real wings. Remember the most important lesson. It's not about cannabis. It's about discovering the magic of everyday life. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the laughter of a friend, the gentle inner voice that knows the truth. These are your true spirit guides. Cannabis was just a flashlight that helped you see in the dark. But now that the sun is out, you don't need it anymore. Before you go, do one more thing for me. Stop the video immediately. Breathe deeply. Feel your heartbeat. That is the true miracle. The plant was never the source. Just a reminder of the power you have always possessed. If this journey has touched you, share it. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, so the algorithm can spread this wisdom and subscribe to it, because this is just the beginning. We still have so much to discover together. But for now, live your life awake. The plant's final lesson: you have never been broken. You have always been whole. Now shine like you know,